President Xi Jinping meets Canadian Prime Minister in Beijing. Security Secretary Chris Tang said the police opened fire in Tuen Mun to save lives. U.S. Middle Eastern allies urged Donald Trump to hold off on strikes against Iran. Hello and welcome to TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. President Xi Jinping and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney met in Beijing on Friday. Carney is the first Canadian leader to visit China in 8 years. Mimo Singhai reports.
The meeting took place at Beijing's Great Hall of the People on Friday morning. President Xi Jinping recalled the two leaders' previous meeting at APEC in South Korea last October, which opened a new chapter of improvement and momentum in China-Canada relations. Xi said that China is willing to work with Canada to promote a relationship that is healthy, stable and sustainable. In response, Mark Carney said the partnership between the two countries will bring opportunities to the people of both the countries and the world.
We can build on the best of what this relationship has been in the past to create a new one, adapted to new global realities, to deliver stability, security, and prosperity for peoples on both sides of the Pacific.
In the meeting, Xi mentioned 4 aspects that he hopes to establish in China-Canada relations: partners of mutual respect, partners of common development, partners of mutual trust, and partners of collaboration. Xi said while China and Canada have different national conditions, the countries should respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Carney said that Canada is committed to the One China policy, adding the country is dedicated to working with China in mutual respect to expand and strengthen cooperation. Canada has also agreed to remove its 100% tariff on Chinese electric cars in return for lower tax on Canadian farm products. Carney arrived in Beijing on Wednesday for his 4-day China visit. Mimo 9, TVB News.
A South Korean court on Friday found former President Yoon Suk-yeol guilty of obstructing authorities from executing an arrest warrant related to his martial law declaration in December 2024. He's been sentenced to 5 years in jail. A vehicle believed to be carrying Yoon arrived at court in Seoul on Friday, surrounded by police and supporters. This is one of several criminal cases against Yoon and not the main rebellion trial. Yoon's rebellion charges carry either the death sentence or life imprisonment if convicted. But judges have some leeway and can commute the sentence to as little as 10 years in prison if they choose. Back locally, sources say the 34-year-old man who was shot dead by the police on Thursday after a knife incident in Tuen Mun had suffered from psychosis. Secretary for Security Chris Tang said the police's decision to open fire was not an easy one to make. Tang said the officers acted decisively and courageously. Mimo Singhai reports.
Tuen Mun Town Plaza, where the incident happened, was open for business on Friday. Bloodstains remained on the ground. Some workers used cloths to clean the scene. The affected food store, where the suspect seized a knife on Thursday night, had an open kitchen. Kitchenware was placed on the countertop. The incident happened at around 7 p.m. on Thursday. This CCTV video captures the moment the man walked into the kitchen to take the knife. Another piece of CCTV footage shows a group of passers-by running out of the mall. And seconds later, the suspect appears with a female hostage whom he appeared to attempt to stab with the knife. 2 police officers fired at him and the man falls to the ground. He was later pronounced dead at the hospital. The deceased's family arrived at the mortuary this morning. His relatives said the man sometimes visited his mother to eat with her after he had moved out. The police said the suspect was Vietnamese but held a Hong Kong ID card. The man was said to have a triad background and criminal history involving drugs. Sources say the man suffered from psychosis and antisocial personality disorder. He did not show up for his scheduled doctor's appointment on Monday. On a radio program, Secretary for Security Chris Tan said opening fire was a difficult decision for the police to make. He said officers had to act decisively to save lives by aiming at the largest part of the suspect's body to stop him from endangering the lives of civilians. The Hong Kong Red Cross reminds residents to take care of each other's emotional health amid the incident, adding that a 24/7 psychological support hotline is available for those in need. Numbers 9, TVB News.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan will deliver the government's budget next month. He expects that land sales revenue over the next 2 to 3 years will still be insufficient to support government infrastructure spending, which means bond issuance is needed. Financial Secretary Paul Chan attended a special meeting of the Legislative Council's Finance Committee today. He expects geopolitical tensions to continue causing significant volatility in the capital markets, but he remains cautiously optimistic about Hong Kong's economic development and the steady improvement in China's economy. Some legislators are concerned about whether the new budget will increase measures to support the middle class. The FS said he will review whether there is room for adjustments to tax measures such as child tax exemption. But Chan said the stamp duty on stocks will not be reduced. The government has imposed punitive measures on the contractors, structural engineer, and project management consultant involved in construction malpractices at 3 light public housing projects. The issue involved irregularities with materials used in housing sites in Tuen Mun, Soi Lam, and Chai Wan. 6% of screws were cut, and some connection plates, which these screws were attached to, were enlarged without permission. Upon a review, the Housing Bureau and the Development Bureau accepted the findings of the investigative report by the Architectural Services Department. Construction work by all 3 housing projects was undertaken by Able Engineering Company Limited. The company will be barred from tendering for public work contracts for a year. CM Wong and Associates Limited and Wong Tung and Partners Limited were also punished. Several Middle Eastern allies of the United States have reportedly urged U.S. President Donald Trump's administration to hold off on strikes against Iran for the government's deadly crackdown on protesters. This comes as a Chinese envoy called on all parties to exercise restraint and avoid further escalating the situation in Iran at a UN Security Council meeting. Meanwhile, exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi laid out his aspirations for Iran if its theocracy is toppled. Daniel Rao tells us more.
According to a diplomat speaking on condition of anonymity, top officials from Egypt, Oman, Saudi Arabia and Qatar have raised concerns in the last 48 hours that a US military intervention in Iran would shake the global economy and destabilize an already volatile region. However, the White House maintained all options remain on the table of US President Donald Trump as he deals with Iran.
What I will say with respect to Iran is that the president and his team have communicated to the Iranian regime that if the killing continues, there will be grave consequences. And so the president and his team are closely monitoring this situation, and all options remain on the table for the president.
At a United Nations Security Council meeting, a Chinese envoy called on all parties to exercise restraint and avoid further escalating the situation in Iran. Sun Lei, China's deputy permanent representative to the United Nations, stressed Iran's affairs should be decided independently by the Iranian people. He said China always advocates adherence to the purposes and principles of the UN Charter and international law, and opposes the use or threat of force in international relations and the imposition of one country's will upon another. That plan is likely aimed at trying to secure US support to lead Iran if the nationwide protests succeed in ousting the Islamic Republic. Nearly 50 years of theocratic rule have left little opportunity for major opposition figures to coalesce, leaving Pahlavi as one of only a few recognizable faces. Daniel TV News.
Welcome back. The Chinese New Year fireworks display featuring horse elements and auspicious symbols is set to light up the sky over Victoria Harbour on February 18 at 8 p.m. The sponsor, the Hong Kong Jockey Club, offered a preview of what will be on display during the 23-minute spectacle. Samantha Lee reports.
Chinese New Year is always a highlight in Hong Kong's festive calendar, drawing thousands of tourists to share in the festivities. With the theme of this year's fireworks display being Prosperity Gallops Across Hong Kong, the show will be split into 8 scenes. The fireworks display will last for 23 minutes, during which 31,888 pyrotechnic shells will be fired into the air, 8,000 more than last year, with an estimated cost of over $19 million. To usher in the Year of the Horse with spirit, fireworks in the second scene will depict golden ingots, extending blessings of good fortune and success. This will be followed by horse racing-related elements, where horseshoe-shaped fireworks and wind motifs will be shown across the sky. There will also be images of the Chinese character, which means good fortune, symbolizing love and hope for the world.
We have many symbols, symbolic icon that is horse related and Chinese New Year related, such as number 8. Number 8 also defined as infinity, okay? Horse has infinity potential.
For the Hong Kong Jockey Club, this is a very special, auspicious year and a very special occasion when we want to celebrate the special role of horses and horse racing in the 140-year history of the club and the history of Hong Kong, with horse racing having very deep roots in the community.
Apart from sponsoring the fireworks display, the Hong Kong Jockey Club will extend the Chinese New Year celebrations to the mainland by supporting drone shows in Chonghua and Shanghai. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The government released a study plan on the development of a modern logistics cluster in the Hung Shui Kyu Hudson New Development Area with a view to promoting the smart, green and sustainable development of Hong Kong's logistics industry. To address the long-term demand for logistics sites, authorities propose developing the 36-hectare logistics cluster, which will be completed in 5 phases, with 3 being available in 2027-28 at the earliest. The biggest zone is dedicated for e-commerce with a size of 10.2 hectares. There will be 4 zones for high-value goods, freight goods, smart and green mass transit systems, and future expansion, respectively. Troops from several European countries have arrived in Greenland in a show of support for Denmark. This as talks between representatives of Denmark, Greenland, and the U.S. highlighted fundamental disagreements over the future of the Arctic island. Meanwhile, France's finance minister warned U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent that any move to seize Greenland would amount to a crossed line, endangering Europe's economic relationship with Washington. Tracy Furness has more.
A Royal Danish Navy ship patrolling the coast of Greenland's capital, Nuuk. Denmark announced it would increase its military presence in Greenland as several European partners, including France, Germany, UK, Norway, Sweden and the Netherlands, started sending symbolic numbers of troops Wednesday, and more to follow in the next few days. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen reiterated the bloc's support for Greenland.
What is clear is that Greenland can count on us politically, economically and financially. And when it comes to its security, the discussions on Arctic security are first and foremost a core issue of NATO. But I also want to emphasize that it is the Arctic and Arctic security, both topics, are core topics for the European Union and matter enormously for us. This is, among others, the reason why we double down on investments and supporting Greenland.
A Greenland lawmaker said Thursday that the most important thing for Greenlanders is that they are directly represented at meetings in the White House and that they are central to the discussions between Europe, Denmark and the United States.
We just want to make sure that both the United States and Denmark and Europe understand that the end goal is for the Arctic to be a low-tension region. We keep security and stability in the Arctic, and it's very important for the Greenlandic people to, in that context, to have direct communication with the United States, which is vital to the security and stability in the Arctic in the Western Alliance.
This, as the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt said, U.S. officials intend to keep having talks with representatives from Denmark and Greenland every 2 to 3 weeks. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
In the U.S., demonstrators gathered outside the Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building in Minneapolis on Thursday night to protest the U.S. federal immigration crackdown in the city. On Thursday, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to invoke an 1807 law and deploy troops to quell persistent protests against the federal officers sent to Minneapolis to enforce his administration's massive immigration crackdown. The threat comes a day after a man was shot and wounded by an immigration officer who had been attacked with a shovel and broom handle. That shooting further heightened the fear and anger that has radiated across the city since an immigration and customs enforcement agent fatally shot Renee Good. Trump has repeatedly threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act to deploy the U.S. military or federalize the National Guard for domestic law enforcement over the objections of state governors. Russian President Vladimir Putin has received credentials from 34 newly appointed ambassadors to Russia, including from France, Italy, Brazil, Egypt, and Afghanistan. Speaking after the ceremony in the Kremlin, Putin emphasized Moscow needs guarantees of its security as part of a prospective peace deal in Ukraine. Putin said Russia wants the deal in Ukraine to secure a long-term and sustainable peace, reliably ensuring the security of everyone. He said while Ukraine and its allies aren't ready for it yet, Moscow hopes the understanding of this necessity will come sooner or later. Putin added, in the absence of it, Russia will continue to consistently pursue the goals it has set. Britain's Princess of Wales welcomed England's women's rugby team to Windsor Castle on Thursday to celebrate their Rugby World Cup victory last autumn. Catherine, who is patron of the Rugby Football Union, hosted the Red Roses following their win on home soil with the trophy on show. In the final, England defeated Canada 33-13 at Twickenham, securing their third World Cup title after victories in 1994 and 2014.
Such a great game, and actually they shouldn't necessarily need to pigeonhole boys and girls into particular sports too early. Obviously, as they get physically stronger, George, now if I play at home, I do not want to get tackled by George, but no, up to a certain age, I think it's great, game.
Thanks for watching. Bye for now.